In 1997, Roger Linn launches Linn Electronics. They put out their first sample drum machine. In 1979, the LM1. It's a hit. All the pop stars are using it. They love it. 1982, the new one, the Linn drum, comes out. That's a big hit as well, and so is Beat It. Now, after this point, it gets a little troubling. 1984, the Linn 9000 launches. It ain't so hot. It's too hot, not good. He put the same software in the Linn sequencer and also in the Linn MIDI studio. He's out of business. Can't do anything now. Or maybe. Roger Linn gets a phone call from a Japanese company called AKAI Pro. They want him to come to Japan and build a brand new drum machine for them. He says, sure, we'll do a joint deal. They make the deal. He goes to Japan. Now, this is a risky move. First of all, AKAI Pro is nobody in 1986. They just started in 1984. They only had 2 keyboards, and they had stolen the ideas from the Roland Juno series and put it in these 2 keyboards, the AX60 and the AX80. And they had a sampler called the S612, which is cheesy, wasn't that great. But then, in 1986, they put it together and came up with the S900. Now, this thing can do 63 seconds of sampling at 7.5 kilohertz in stereo. Now, the higher up you go, let's say you go to 40 kilohertz, that means you can do 11.3 seconds of sampling in stereo. You can hold 32 samples at once. And it's 8-voice polyphony. This is exactly what Roger Linn and AKAI need to make the drum machine. This sampling architecture or system is perfect. All they need to do now is to build the drum machine, get the sequencer system to work, and to make it align with MIDI in every which way. Now, in 1988, when the MPC60 was released, it sold for $5,000, which is a lot of money. So, a lot of studios bought it, and some artists bought it, and some guys who could afford it would buy it to try and make tracks with. But in 1987, the SP1200 was released, and it was way more popular than the MPC60 because it only cost $1,800. Now, this is a unique thing that happens in 1988, and what makes it bigger is that hip-hop is about to change. They had already been using a bunch of DJs, and they were getting sued for taking records and using records in the background. The new hip-hop producer comes out, and these guys are like creating art. They're taking a piece of music here, a piece of music there. They're trying to pitch it up. You got to realize that at this point, for the first time in the music biz, there are guys producing music that have never studied music, that have been in music school, know nothing about the whole idea of music structure and chord changes, or even music theory. What they're doing is they're creating a brand new music, and this is the beginning of that era. The MPC60 is selling, but it's $5,000. That's a little bit too high. They're selling more samplers than they are selling MPC60s. AKAI wants to stop that. In 1990, they want to start making a brand new MPC60. They contact Roger Linn. He's not too happy about it. He thinks the other one's okay, but they got to make money. He gets together with them. They improve the operating system somewhat, and they come out with the MPC60 So in 1991, they released the MPC60 for under $2,000. It's starting to sell now, and it's selling a lot. As a matter of fact, in the used market today, you're going to find more MPC62s than MPC60s. It got that big. In fact, one of the most dedicated users of the MPC62 is Primo, DJ Premier.
I'm still on the MPC62.
Okay, wait. Listen, he's still using the MPC62 and still bangs out hits. So that shows you that you know what you have the right talent. First MPC you had.
I went from SP12 to Alessa's machine to the MPC60 because I was doing a session with Lord Finesse and Showbiz. They were doing a remix of Return of the Funky Man, and they said, meet me at D&D Studios. We're going to do a session there, and we want to do some scratches. When I went there and I got a copy of the mix and I played it in my car, it sounded so dope that I said, yo, I'm gonna start working here. At the day we were working on the Daily Operation album for Gangstar, the first track I was working on was Flip the Script. And I was still using the Alessis drum machine, but the engineer who worked at D&D, who became my engineer, Eddie Sancho, he watched the way I was programming my beats on the Alessis, and he said, yo, the way you lay your tracks and print them and line them up, you're better off using the MP. And I was like, why? And he said, because you can do individual tracks on the screen. He said it's basically a tape machine without the tape. So he showed me how you can lay them all out and do all the different levels with the volumes and do the sequence. I was like, oh yeah, this is what I need. And from that day I was hooked, and I bought his, and I was stuck on the MPC60 ever since.
After the release of the MPC60 in 1991, Roger Linn still wanted to make another MPC. Sales were good of the MPC60, but Roger Linn wanted a better MPC. He saw the idea of adding more polyphony and getting a better value out of swing, and he created a brand new MPC. His only problem, he had to talk AKAI into making a brand new MPC 2 years later, and he finally did, actually. In 1993, they agreed. Roger Linn comes up with this awesome idea. He makes the swing value so dope, it's so groovy. You can swing up a little bit, or you can detract from it. So you were able to change the swing value either way. Plus, you can turn off quantized totally and turn off swing. And then you can do it and get a good human feel and create your sequencing from a humanized approach of sequencing.
When AKAI introduced the MPC3000, it was the tool of choice for many of the top hip-hop producers in the game, including J DIlla. J DIlla was a producer out of Detroit in the mid-90s through his early death in 2006 from a rare blood disease. He passed away just 3 days after releasing one of his most fascinating and beloved albums, Donuts. He worked with an astounding list of iconic artists and pulled off the majority of his sound with just a few simple instruments, machines, and samplers, one of them being the MPC.
And the MPC3000 was the last MPC Roger Linn ever made. And they're all still being used today. Even on the used market, the MPC3000 sells for about $5,000. Those MPCs are still making AKAI considered to be one of the most popular drum machine design companies in the world. It's the reason why they've made 22 MPCs since the original MPC60. By creating the MPCs, Roger Linn changed the entire music industry and made hip-hop mainstream. Amazing.